as well, so others who can't attend can listen in later.
I don't know if he's going to be here or not.
Any elected representatives on the line?
I ain't happy. My mother doesn't even want to talk to me because all I talk about is stuff at the wedding.
Okay, that's great. And then if there are any community partners that are on the line that would like to introduce yourselves, please put your name and your affiliation in the chat. That would be really helpful to make sure that we know that you're here as well. Okay. So with that being said, Reflow is a nonprofit in the Milwaukee area. We work on community-based water projects. Our most relevant program for today's discussion is our Green and Healthy Schools program. We work with local schools, Milwaukee Public Schools, and the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District and others to redevelop schoolyards, to remove asphalt and put in stormwater green infrastructure, outdoor classrooms, improved recreational facilities, all sorts of really great things, and culturally relevant curricular connections as well.
Because I'm not.
We also have other programs. We work often with community garden groups and many others as well. And we also have a really fun intern program as well, where we hire students to help support our Green and Healthy Schools projects as well. Also, as a part of the planning team is UW-Milwaukee's Community Design Solutions. It's a group of graduate students in the Architecture and Urban Planning program that are working with us to develop the renderings and the plan documents that we'll be reviewing today. It's a really great opportunity for the graduate students to participate in real world projects. And we're really excited to have CDS partnering on these as well. And then the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District, MMSD for short, is a sponsor for this program. And Lisa Sasso is the project manager that's supporting these. And MMSD is particularly interested in the stormwater green infrastructure and the opportunity to manage stormwater where it falls on the school grounds. They're also really interested in the eco-literacy components of the schoolyard redevelopment projects. And again, MMSD is sponsoring the conceptual planning of this process as well. And then Lisa Neeb just dropped the agenda in the chat as well. Lisa is our schoolyard redevelopment project manager, and she'll be following up with the chat questions as well. So as we get into this, we are in a cohort model. There are 5 schools in the 5th cohort. Gaenslen is in the 5th cohort. That's great because there's opportunities to learn from the schools that have gone through the same process ahead of you. Multiple lessons learned are being shared, and you guys are in the nice opportunity to take advantage of that. But the other schools are German Immersion, Kluge, Mitchell, and Riley that are going through the same process at the same time that you guys are all there. Okay, so with that being said, we have a short video. It's about 2 minutes, 20 seconds long. It helps to communicate the process that we're just beginning here with Gaenslen, and it helps to show off some of the final construction projects as well. I'm gonna switch over and we're gonna take a look at that.
Many Milwaukee area schoolyards are in poor condition and offer little, if any, green space. Schoolyards were originally paved to reduce lawn maintenance costs, but decades of inertia have left deteriorating infrastructure that is costly to repair and impairs the environmental health of our city and the social emotional health of our children. The redevelopment process begins with schools applying to receive conceptual planning support provided by Reflow and the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District. Each year, 5 schools are awarded the planning grant based on their need and enthusiasm for a greener, healthier schoolyard. The year-long planning process consists of monthly green team meetings that culminate in the development of a conceptual plan document that is well supported by the school community, administration, and project partners. Schools spent over a year fundraising with support from the school district, project partners, and community. School districts hire engineering consultants to create the necessary detailed designs before construction can begin in the summer of the third year of the process.
I am not going to litter because water carries trash down hills into the river or lake.
I'm going to remind my family that our choices affect more than just ourselves. Everything is connected.
These projects don't only help our schools receive a new and better playground, they're also helping the environment and making a positive change in our community.
An increasing body of research underscores that students' access to green schoolyards can result in better academic outcomes, increased engagement and enthusiasm, improved social emotional skills, and decreased childhood obesity. Redeveloped schoolyards also offer many other benefits, including improved stormwater management, urban biodiversity, community engagement, and meaningful STEAM curricular connections.
For more information, visit reflowh2o.com.
I'll just pause it there too. So this last slide of this video is helpful to communicate the wide partners and support needed to make these projects happen. This is a really strong relationship between the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District, Milwaukee Public Schools, Reflow, the City of Milwaukee, Fund for Lake Michigan, and others as well to make these projects happen. So I'm just going to go back to what we're looking at. And so just to Ms. Brown, before I invite you to provide some feedback on why Gaenslen is interested in this work, I do just want to take a look here at the timeline and where we are in the overall process for Gaenslen. So we talked, that video just helped to showcase the overall process, starting with conceptual planning, going into a year of fundraising, followed by detailed design and then construction in about 3 years. And so this arrow indicates where we are in this overall process. And so we'll be in conceptual planning throughout all of 2021. All of 2022 will be fundraising. And if we're successful in that fundraising effort, construction will take place in the summer of 2023. So we're a distance from anything happening, construction wise. And so we have lots of opportunity to iteratively make the plan bigger and better as we move forward. So please make sure to just, if there's any thoughts or comments, please drop them in the chat or make sure to comment as we go through the second draft of the conceptual plan as well. Okay, so Ms. Brown, would you mind unmuting yourself and kind of talking us through why Gaenslen applied for this conceptual planning and what you guys are most excited about as we go through this?
Okay, hi, good afternoon to everyone. Are you hearing me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. And so this fit right in with a number of things that we have been and are interested in. And so one being with us having this asphalt, jungle out there. We were looking to find a way to redevelop our playground. So because we were concerned about the rainwater, the stormwater, and the runoff. And so we were interested in those and developing those bioswales and those and looking at ways to combat that issue. But then also, as we were working to try to develop our urban agriculture initiatives, we were looking at, outdoor classroom spaces and ways that we can bring learning to outdoors and nature and take advantage of the beautiful space that we're in and location that we're in and be able to teach children more about, nature and about being healthy and eating healthy and, all those things. And then we were looking for to be able to have our playground accommodate our school, our student body. We have a 47%, I believe, special education population, and many of our students, as you all already know, are medically fragile or orthopedically impaired, and we sometimes feel that we're not always inclusive as inclusive as we want to be of our entire population. So when this came around, the opportunity for this, it was first last year, and Miss Bivens brought it to my attention, and she's like, I think this is a good opportunity, and I looked at it and agreed, and we applied for it. And being kind of new and green to applying for the grant, we did not get accepted the first year, and we were determined. We was like, okay, we're gonna do it again when it comes back around. And so when the opportunity came back around, we definitely jumped on it, because this was something that we were very passionate about and something that we wanted to see happen at our school. So fortunately, we were granted this opportunity this time around. And so myself and Ms. Bivens and Ms. Hartman, who has been very instrumental in helping with our gardens and the aquaponics and the things that we have going on. We've been, meeting and are excited as we're starting to move forward with this initiative. So there's so many opportunities for not only our students, but for the community as a whole. So I'm, like I said, extremely excited as we're going through this process. And I thank you all again for affording us this opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Great. So I also do want to I know I saw a couple more people join. If there are any elected representatives on the line, please feel free to unmute yourself and introduce yourself now. Also the same with community organizations that may be partnered with Gaenslen. Please drop your name and organizational affiliation in the chat window. That would be helpful just to make sure that we have everyone represented here as well. Okay. So next up, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a look at the second draft. And again, underscoring the word draft, this is our opportunity, or one of our opportunities here, to provide feedback on that. Some of the ways that we're going to be looking to get feedback is through this idea flip program. For those staff members that participated in the first draft, this is the same program that we used last time. We'll also be opening up a Google form option. So if you prefer to respond and provide feedback through that means, that's available. Again, we're also recording this session, so that can be shared to those that aren't able to attend this evening. And then we are holding out hope that we can do an in-person meeting in fall. We recognize that access to the internet and computers is not always easy for everyone or accessible to everyone. So if that is at all possible, that's something we are, the conceptual planning process is all the way through the end of 2021. So there's opportunities on the other side of the next school year as well. And then emails to Lisa Neeb with Reflow. If there are any questions, thoughts, those can be emailed directly to Lisa as well. So that being said, we're going to flip over to this idea flip board. And I actually have that already open. And Lisa is going to drop that link into the chat. So anyone that wants to follow along directly in those boards, you can go ahead and do that. I'm going to spend a couple minutes walking us through what is on this board. And then we're going to go through some prompts. But on the top portion of this board, we have some of the initial feedback. There was a schoolyard use survey that was distributed. We got some really great feedback. This is a listing of the initial features that the Gaenslen community said that they wanted to see on the schoolyard. Just to name off a couple of these, soccer, grass, native plantings, increased access to the tot lot, logs and stumps, sensory gardens, lots of really great features. There's also a really healthy list of activities that you'd like to do on the new schoolyard. And we can certainly add to this. There's some post-it notes that we can add to this, but STEAM or STEM activities, PBIS, yoga, exercise, ecology, habitats, all sorts of really great things. This is really helpful as we certainly in coming months help to develop the curricular connections for the schoolyard redevelopment as well, so that some of the features that we're calling for can really be well used with your classrooms as well. So those were some of the activities, those were the initial ideas. And then from that response, CDS and Reflow put together this first draft of the conceptual plan. As a part of that, we also pulled together some examples of other schoolyard redevelopment projects that help to provide some precedent images that help to guide that first draft. We also had 3 prompts that we'll review here, which was, what did people like about that plan? What were the opportunities for improvement? And then what are some open questions? And we'll be following up with those same prompts in the second draft, which is down here. And this is what we'll be reviewing this evening. And again, we're going to walk through the second draft, and Rachel from CDS is going to walk us through that, as well as a precedent setting image. And then we're going to ask people to respond to, number 1, what do you like about the current plan? Number 2, what are some opportunities for improvement? And number 3, are there any open questions? Okay, so with that being said, Rachel, would you mind unmuting yourself and then just kind of walking us through some of the major elements of the second draft here?
Yeah, so getting feedback from the previous draft, we wanted to encompass the 4-square kickball area up at the top that you see near the lavender garden. So that's brand new. We shifted the basketball up a little bit more so that we could provide more room for like the Gaga ball activity. We could have some wood climbers in that center space there. And then you can follow these agility paths all the way around the entire middle section of the new playground. And then you can see that the river trail has like a new paint texture on it, that it would be kind of more of a sensory, interesting, like artistic waves walking you through it. You could also see that there's some little fish that are popping off on each side of it that could be like painted on the asphalt. And then next to that is the agility. So there's so much fun things going on the ground, all painted asphalt. And then there's a lot of asphalt getting dug up in the center there. You see that giant bioswale. There's still a little log bridge that you'll see in the perspective. And then there's that outdoor classroom space that kind of backs up to the bioswale. So you have something really nice to look at and to feel really relaxed in nature as like that main space. Also surrounded by some mounds that could be like little barriers of like noise, and also could be interesting climbing features. And then as you move up, there's that second outdoor classroom with musical instruments attached to it. This is kind of more of a secondary classroom with like trees backed up behind it, kind of more informal. And then you can see the river, the painted river actually falls into the classroom, so that it kind of feels like you're getting the river to flow into a lake. So we wanted to change the texture of that crushed red granite, so maybe it could be like a more bluish crushed red granite to show like it's water, to kind of bring the nature to your schoolyard. And then next to that, we still have that butterfly garden, the reading nook. We still have the raised beds. And then that crushed red granite trail, we extended everything there into that side that you guys said we could move into a little bit more, which I think that really opens up a lot of space. And then that calming corner of the lavender garden over in the left.
Can you talk through the greenhouse and these beds?
Yep, and then you guys mentioned the greenhouse last time, so we just incorporated that. And from what I seen from the image that you guys showed us, the raised beds and the greenhouse, I kind of tried to mimic the way that it was shown there. But let me know if it's not shown right. I can adjust it easily.
And I'll just add, so the idea here with the river that's painted on the asphalt, the idea here, you guys are so close to the Milwaukee River, it would, given the slopes, having a wheelchair accessible access to the river at this location would be extremely challenging. And so that concept here was that we could bring the river to your schoolyard. And so that's what we thought, that we could have this painted on here. And then everything would be, all the pathways would be wheelchair accessible as well. There's mention of ADA accessible raised bed gardens. And we would want to make sure that some of the recreational features too are wheelchair accessible as well. All these pathways would, in the outdoor classrooms, would all be on crushed granite, which is wheelchair accessible. And then Rachel, can you just talk us through this kind of perspective image?
Yeah, and this perspective takes place in that giant middle bioswale area. You kind of see a little bit of that painted river water texture. Oh, sorry. I think if you hear the thunder in the background. And you can kind of see those like little painted fish, the little agility pieces that you can hop on and play on that are painted on the ground. And then you see that log bridge, which is like ADA accessible. You look over the bioswale, kind of really be immersed within it, and then it leads you to that outdoor classroom space of this like calming area. And you can see that there have been a lot of trees added, a lot of like little stumps and fun features that you could play in.
So this is one of really 3 perspective images that we'll be creating on behalf of the project. So one of the things we want to accomplish this evening too is determining what the other 2 perspective renderings will be as well. So keep that in mind. If anyone is looking at this plan and says, I really would like to see more detail on what this space looks like, we have an opportunity to do that there. And then again, Lisa just dropped that link again of the idea flip in the chat. And just to provide some more visuals of what we're talking about, native landscaping, this is a good example from Fondy Park, where that native landscaping supports different types of pollinator species like butterflies that can grow, 3+ feet, and has some really great, black-eyed Susans and some other types of flowering plants that can come with that. They're native to Wisconsin. Bioswales, this is another good visual from Clement Avenue School. Bioswales at schoolyards in particular, we like to put these pathways through them so that they can help support maintenance. Students inevitably will be running through bioswales, and so trying to make these as resilient as we can is really important. And we've learned putting a pathway through them will help to direct some of that student energy through that bioswale. And then, of course, trees as well. We're talking about putting tree protection around some of the trees that are a little bit in the high traffic areas on the schoolyard, just to make sure that we're giving them some more resiliency to mature. And then an underground cistern will help us to capture as much stormwater as we can on the school grounds as well. We also are calling for porous pavement in the parking lot, which will also help to reduce flooding and manage stormwater on the school grounds. And then we mentioned in the outdoor classroom some shade sails. This is a good example of what that can look like. The colors can be identified to be as appropriate as or as well connected to the school as we'd like. And then just to take a look at some visual examples of musical instruments. This is down by Summerfest grounds. Some pretty heavy duty stuff, which is great and fun. When we talk about agility pathways, this is a good example from MKE Rec. There's painted play that can be really colorful, and we saw that in that precedent image. But there's prompts on the grounds for balance and hopping and skipping, as well as large circles and foursquare for different games that can be played on the school grounds as well. And then when we talk about wood features, this is an example from Clement Avenue School as well. Kind of natural balance and climbing features that can be used as seating for the outdoor classroom, as well as balance during recess activities. And then Gaga Ball is a really popular activity with students. It's a little less intensive than kickball or dodgeball. It's a little bit more accommodating for more students in a smaller space. But this is what Gaga Ball looks like for those that may not be familiar with that game. Okay, so I'm zooming back out, and we're going to open it up for these prompts. And just to remind ourselves, number 1, what do we like about the current draft? Number 2, what are opportunities for improvement? And number 3, what are some questions you may have? And again, I'd invite you to click the link in the chat window so that you can go ahead and respond to these prompts. I'm going to just demonstrate how to do that. once you log into this, on the right-hand side, you'll see a number of Post-it notes. For our purposes today, the color of the Post-it notes will not matter. Pick whatever color you like, left click on it, and then drag it onto the board. And you'll see that Post-it note just kind of stick on there. And then if you just place it in one of those 3 prompts, and you can double click it, and you can type in there what you're thinking. So, in this case, I like the bioswales and the pathway through it. And then I'll hit enter. We're okay. And then if you see a note that you agree with, further down in the stationery on the right-hand side, you can give it a plus up, a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you respond, depending on how you feel about that particular comment. So with that being said, does anyone want to unmute themselves and just kind of start things off with what are you seeing in this plan that you like, and then we can kind of go from there.
I love the addition of the agility trail around the bioswale. That's really fun.
Yeah, those are like really popular. It's like a passive, kind of easy to understand activity. That's a fun one.
How much of the current area does this cover? I'm having a hard time. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I'm going to zoom out here. I apologize for zooming in and out so much, but I'm just going to go up here. So we do have in that kind of original setting this drone photo.
Okay.
And so what's happening on your school grounds or schoolyard right now is 90+% of the stormwater is going down to these 2 stormwater inlets right here in the middle. And so that's why we're showing that large bioswale right in the middle. And we're building that outdoor classroom kind of off of that as well. But it's really this whole school yard that's being touched by this project. Yeah. And another one, kind of looking at this advantage point here, what we're talking about doing is extending the fencing to go into the existing forest so that on your school grounds you have some mature trees, as that pathway kind of showed going through that area. That's something that we'll need to follow up with, but that's the intent, is if we can be able to extend that fencing, because the property line does go into that forest area. And so that's one kind of opportunity to get really mature trees on your schoolyard right away.
I have a question. Could you tell more about the lavender garden? I didn't really hear that talked about that much, but it is intriguing to me.
Yeah.
The lavender garden, it was a thing brought up, I think last year, that some kids kind of like the idea of being able to go to a more peaceful area and kind of just have like a place to relax and calm down, versus like maybe a lot of the playground has these really high intensity active places where sometimes you just need a little bit of time to just sit and relax, and lavender helps with that, a lot of relaxation and de-stressing.
So to respond to some of like the feedback that we got from the initial schoolyard use survey, lavender gardens, it's like a sensorial component. It smells, and it helps to calm as well. What's being shown here is kind of a raised concrete, precast concrete bench and planter. So there would be like seating options here in that kind of lavender garden space. This could also have different types of pollinator plantings, like native garden space, as it enters into this kind of forest trail through here.
And does this provide 4 seasons of activity?
Yep, so that's a good question. The some of the challenges with the existing asphalt is, I can imagine that there's icing and issues that come up with standing water over winter as well. Because we're putting the stormwater management features at the low points of the schoolyard, that's intended to alleviate largely that slips, trips, falls due to ice. So that would help to extend the use of this space over winter. Some of the barriers that we've heard from other schools isn't necessarily like the the space. It's more about making sure that your students have the equipment necessary to go outdoors, and this certainly could be used all year round for your schoolyard.
This is Ms. Hartman. Can you hear me?
You can, yeah.
Yes. I've had a couple of responses about the basketball and the garden. The lavender garden sounds lovely. But the responses have been that it's really nice to keep the basketball a little bit separated from the rest of the playground.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if that's a viable option to keep it where it is. And I did talk to a local resident who lives across the street from the school, and she indicated that the basketball courts are incredibly popular with the community.
For sure. A lot of schools are going down to half courts because it's more appropriate for their student population. Basketball certainly, yeah, absolutely is important. If we want to, we certainly can continue to have that full court up here. One of the reasons we were talking about kind of moving it down to half courts was so that it could be a little bit more accessible for your student body. But then also there is that stormwater inlet represented here by that blue dot. That's kind of right in the middle of that existing basketball court.
There you go. Okay. I understand the reasoning behind it now.
Yeah.
Okay. And where are the underground cisterns?
So that would be as a part of the bioswale as well. So that would be kind of underneath the bioswale.
Okay. Is there a way to get that water from the cistern to the garden where it can actually be used?
I like what you're thinking. That's what we'd call rainwater harvesting. REFL has a whole program dedicated to rainwater harvesting for urban agriculture. I wouldn't necessarily recommend harvesting that rainwater that's coming off of the asphalt schoolyard for purposes of these raised bed gardens. I think if we're interested in that, I think harvesting rainwater off of the maybe the outdoor classroom, if we wanted to increase, to have more of like a 4-post with like a hard roof, that's something that can certainly be done.
There's another option there, Justin, is there is a drain in where our current raised bed ADA garden has been installed.
Yeah.
And it's surrounded by grass, and I don't know if that would be an option there. It's to the south of where the raised beds are. Yeah, about right there. Yes.
And this greenhouse that's here, depending on the design
that's
of that
proposed.
Yeah, we could harvest rainwater off of that greenhouse as well. Burdick, we're harvesting rainwater off of their hoop house as for their raised bed gardens. And then also Longfellow will be getting a rainwater harvesting system for their greenhouse this summer.
So what you called it, rainwater
harvesting? Yep. And the reason why I say to harvest rainwater off of some of these other surfaces is because the different chemical compounds in the asphalt, we wouldn't necessarily want to spend the energy, time, effort to treat that stormwater.
I understand perfectly. I understand perfectly. So, okay. Well, those were the questions and suggestions I had.
Yeah. And the stormwater, just to finish that, the stormwater coming off of the greenhouse roofing is a higher quality than what would be coming off of that surrounding pavement.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Any thoughts about the basketball? We can certainly keep the basketball where it is as a full court if that's of interest. This was in response to other thoughts, but we can certainly keep talking about that one. It's kind of an important one.
I don't like the basketball where it's at right now. The court is too short,
Mhm.
and you have kids trying to play one half court and the other. There tends to be a lot of mixing where it just gets in the way.
Yep. So you're thinking like back up into where the existing
No,
basketball?
the way it is now, I do not like it. I like this idea, although I agree with Ms. Hartman that it would be nice if it was off in a corner, but
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean like put it back up where it is physically.
I
right
would
now.
not. Okay. I would not put it back.
So do you have like a recommendation on where we might be able to put that basketball court?
I actually like what you did. I mean, there isn't much other space. So I don't think it's bad the way it is now. I think it gives the kids more room to play.
But you're saying, but to have more space in between the two half courts.
No, I'm fine with how you have it. I'm saying where it was when it was in the lavender garden,
Yeah.
wasn't a true size of a court. So the kids had a lot of trouble. It was too short. The
I got
space
you.
was not correct for basketball.
Miss Sarah, you're saying you like it the way it looks now?
Yes.
Good.
I'm mostly saying I don't like it the way it is now in real life.
Got it. All right. I was confused on that one. I got it now. Yep, that sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you for that. And
So just a suggestion, in the area where the lavender garden is, we said we were going to utilize part of that, the forest, the trees there. So my question would be, can we extend the basketball pieces there? Just a suggestion. And then the other question I have is about, what about running for, like the community coming in and just taking a jog? And I'm looking at the square all the way around the grounds. And I'm wondering if there can be any space in between there where, there's a small trail that maybe we can add to this that will provide that piece with for the community, as well as our children that's coming from gym. They can probably jog around the grounds.
yeah. Yeah. So a couple. I hear what you're saying here. So then actually I'm going to draw like a circle around here because this is kind of cool. So we can put pavement markings around this whole piece if we want to do kind of like a trail all the way around and do like a full circuit. That could be a good way to address that. The other one that's kind of happening is that there are multiple pathways through here. So if you kind of want to go through this nature, you can go this way.
You're hitting it. You're hitting it right there. That is, I mean, you get a little scenery there. It gives you, as well as the playground, as to what the playground looks like. So even if we mark like almost like a trail that they can run through, that would give them, when you spoke of opening up that piece by the lavender garden, I just thought about, look at the trees up there. It may not be much, but it would be kind of cool to just go running through those pieces. Even if it extended, you see to the left where your trees are?
Yeah.
Okay, even if it extended down that pathway, I know we have a patch of grass over to that side. If we extended around, would kind of be cool. And I mean, of course, it would have to be some fencing over there somewhere to maintain the kids with inside, but just something for the community.
Yeah, this kind of pathway through here I'm drawing in red is kind of a cool, really diverse. You kind of walk through different ecosystems here, through kind of this forest area. You get a taste of that lavender, and then you come down this way. You go through that outdoor classroom. That's a really cool circuit. And then if we do want to reinforce kind of like the more like jogging, heavy, like gross motor, we could draw on the pavement, another circuit that kind of comes around this way, and kind of comes around here. That would be all on asphalt and not necessarily transitioning to different types of surfaces.
That's cool. I do think that the basketball court is very important, as well as some of the things I saw you put in there, like Foursquare, things like that. Yeah, I think those things are awesome for the community as well.
I know soccer was something that we had talked about too. So what's being shown here is roughly dimensions for soccer being painted on the asphalt there. So if there is interest in doing that, and kind of mixed use sports painted on the asphalt in that area as well. sometimes we get, especially Phi Ed department wants to have kind of long pathways, sometimes like 50-meter or 25-meter dashes. If there are any Phi Ed and individuals on the line, please feel free to unmute yourself and kind of speak to this as well. But depending on what kind of activities you guys do, if you want, we can certainly make sure to show those long dashes as well.
I am here. The one we have right now is uphill, so it's always been a challenge.
Yeah.
To time the kids on that already. So that is good, but I really like Mr. Walker's idea of the path. And if we had like the lengths of those, that would be awesome. So we could send the kids and they could do their own walk things and know how many miles they go in a week. Type of thing would be great.
Like markers?
Or even if we just know, like I know that like going around inside our school building 8 times around is 1 mile, so I let the kids know that so they know how far they've walked.
Cool. And it's miles and meters. Are those the right units that you've been using?
Yes.
Okay. And then as far as the dashes, is it 25-meter or 50 meters that you're using?
I mean, 50 is better, but it's hard to find that space on this plate. You'll probably find it.
Yeah.
Even if we only had 2 lanes, it would be a nice thing.
So 2 lanes at 50 meters, and we'll start there. If we can't get that, then we'll figure it out. That sounds good.
So, Mr. Haggard.
Throw another thing out, Justin, if I could.
Just with that piece, when I'm thinking about when I see this blown up, I'm thinking about when I look at the running piece to this, I'm looking at when I run, I get a little bit of everything. I get to see what this playground, what's on it, what, the different activities at a quick glance just by running. And so, and I believe when you look around our community, the greenery is just fabulous. So just if we could extend it in any kind of way to get some of that, some of those trees that's off to your right a little more, like even going past our planetary pieces. So when you come here, it's like one-stop shop. You see everything.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Sarah, did you want to?
Justin, I'm interrupting, I'm sorry, but I have a question. Did you bump the property line out to run parallel with the outside of the garden, the existing garden? Did you bump that out?
Yeah, we're this property line, we're not touching. This property line is from the city of Milwaukee.
It's too far downhill, right?
Yeah, so we wouldn't be talking about touching the property line. Everything that we're talking about is within the property extents.
Just the fence line got bumped out to match the outdoor garden right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is. Okay. One thing also to take into consideration, and I'm sure you guys are all engineers, so you know this, but the trees along the fence line on the west side of the playground by the basketball courts, are those going to be planted in a way that they don't interfere with the parking lot and curb?
Yep.
Okay.
So that's a good question. Right now, there's a pretty healthy amount of green space distance between that chain link fence and the curb.
Okay.
We can plant trees within that area there as well.
Okay. It was something that was brought up to me when we were planning a different area. So and again, you guys are smarter than I am, so thank you.
No, it's a good point. There are certain like rules of thumb on that one. In this case, I think there's enough room that we can be able to fit trees within that area. That helps to provide, shading of the asphalt to some degree. It also helps to provide some like visual barriers between the parking lot and the schoolyard, make it feel a little bit more natural within the schoolyard. This is a good kind of opportunity here to, when we're looking at it from top down, really appreciate all of the chain link fencing. But obviously, we're not going to be able to get away from the chain link fencing. But what we've been talking about with other schools that have a significant amount of it are putting different types of signs that we're calling spot dots on the chain link fencing that are different prompts for, it could be exercise or it could be yoga activities, different stations along the chain link fencing, and trying to use that as a kind of a resource as opposed to just chain link fencing. And we can provide more examples of that as we get further as well.
Yeah, Justin, this just keeps getting better and better.
Good.
It
Yeah.
really does.
I do have a question. I don't know if anybody's brought up putting up some kind of communication, like a permanent communication board for kids who are nonverbal. That would be on the playground.
That's an awesome idea. Where would be the most appropriate place for something like that?
I'm not really sure what would be the most appropriate. I don't know if it'd be better to make smaller ones in different spots as opposed to one really large one. It's just something I thought about, for kids who are nonverbal, who might want to ask to play or ask about something that they're seeing outside. And I know I've seen other things at other schools. I don't know if anybody's ever looked into them, but I would help you with looking into options for communication
That would be
symbols.
awesome.
I know that Ben Franklin, who is in the cohort ahead of you, also has requested communication boards and different like sensory panels. So we are working with them right now to try and identify some of those pieces as well. So anything we learn from that school, we can pass back down to Gaenslen.
Okay, that would be great, because like the lavender garden maybe would have something different than the basketball court area.
Mhm. Yeah, and so what I just kind of outlined here is it may be a really nice spot, like near the outdoor classroom area, along that pathway to help kind of reinforce that pathway as well. Yeah, the other schools, I'm thinking of Bayview Montessori, they also have had an interest in doing like distance markings. If there's interest, kind of think of like those wayfinding posts where it's, says X miles to the North Pole or something along those lines. If that, distance and measurement are different curricular activities you want to connect on your school grounds, that post, idea that could be expanded upon to support nonverbal communication as well. And then along those same lines, other schools have put in what they call buddy benches. It says buddy bench into the bench, and that's kind of earmarked as a space where students can go if they're open to having a conversation with another student and they don't necessarily know how to start that conversation. It's just kind of like an open conversation space, if that seems something you're interested as well.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Sorry, Chungus smells so bad.
I'm curious about the decision to put the greenhouse and the raised beds in the most shaded portion of the space.
May I speak to that?
Yeah.
Yes, that's not a future plan. That's not a part of the future. Those beds are already there. And it's those 4 beds on the south side of the garden that do not get as much sun as we go into fall. And the greenhouse is going to be, it's more centered, it's further north. Right. Thank you, Justin. So it's to take advantage of all of the sun we can possibly get. And also the plan, and this is going to be done this year, it's in the queue within MPS, to have the outdoor, the path, the crushed granite path for our wheelchair bound children, and an outdoor classroom with logs. That's all going to be done this summer. The greenhouse is for the future. So it's not so much in the shade as it looks.
Go to the drone picture. That's what made me think of it.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a good point.
Now, when was that picture taken? What time of the year?
Yeah, so this this is a little bit biased too, because this would have been taken actually in December, early December.
Right.
So this is kind of like the worst case scenario right here.
Okay.
When you may not be in the raised beds, but in the greenhouse, that's kind of a different scenario for sure.
Right. And so I don't know if I'm repeating myself, but we've got dwarf fruit trees going in along that retaining wall. But it's possible to move the raised beds more to the north to gain exposure to the sun, if that's an issue. But is for fall growth, it worked out fine last year.
And Ms. Hartman, maybe orienting the greenhouse like here so that it catches them if you're planning on growing year long in the greenhouse.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'll talk to Bob about that. That's certainly a possibility. I appreciate the question. Yeah, because we do want to maintain that greenhouse for as much of the year as possible.
I had another question. So I've seen on necessarily not schools in MPS, but on other playgrounds, something called like a peace path, where if children have like disagreements, they it like walks them through kind of the, I feel steps, that kind of thing, where it gives them the words to, taking turns to say when there's a disagreement. Is it possible that we could look into adding something like that?
For sure. And I think a really appropriate place for that may be in this kind of forest walk-through area, and then having this kind of bench area at the end of that could really support that kind of resolution practice. If you wouldn't mind providing a little bit more description on that, either in the prompts on the side or following up with an email with visual examples of that, we can certainly make sure to include something like that.
Sure, I'll send stuff to Ms. Brown and Ms. Hartman, and then they can get it to you if that's okay.
Perfect, yeah.
All right, thank you.
And then the same with the speech and the nonverbal communication. If you have any examples and that you want to make sure that we're including in this kind of conceptual phase, please don't hesitate to send those over so we can include those.
I had another thought to piggyback off of what Annie had mentioned about that peace, sort of bridge, the conflict resolution. Would it be possible if, just as like an idea, to maybe put it down like on the path that goes back into door 3 to that tot lot door? So like next to the path that goes like next to the raised beds that goes back in, to have something painted on the ground there, if there's enough room, like on the, you know what I'm saying?
Down here?
Yeah, if it wasn't like possible to put it on a path, I don't know if that's an area that where, the kids are walking out there anyway, like that might be a nice way for them to come off the playground and, figure out what they got to figure out and head on back in. I don't know.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that? From my perspective, I don't see any issues with that.
I love it because it's a way to resolve things and you let it go at the door.
Yeah, some more examples of that on what you're thinking about, what those kind of prompts would be. I think that would be helpful, and we can try to, we can make sure to show those as well. Okay, so all these notes too, Lisa is listening to everything we're saying. She's putting those in the questions and the prompts that we have on the right-hand side here. Please keep responding to this. Lisa, can you unmute and remind me? I think we have this board open until the end of next week. Is that correct?
Yes, through May 7th. There are a couple questions in the chat, Justin, we probably should review.
Yeah.
There's a question about future maintenance and who is responsible for that.
Yes. So yeah, maintenance is important. So the maintenance is the responsibility of the school. So everything that we're talking about, we want to make sure is low maintenance, that it's well connected with the curriculum to help position it so that it will be maintained in the long run. We are advocating for more support in the maintenance and stewardship phase of development. But at the moment, everything is the responsibility of maintenance is on the school and the building engineer and really the school green team to make sure that these spaces are well taken care of and well programmed and used. One of the things that we're seeing with the other schoolyard projects is making sure that curricular connections are well connected with the space, so that if you're using the space, it's going to be better maintained, or there's going to be a higher demand to maintain it as well. But also making sure that all the features that we're talking about are relatively low maintenance as much as possible.
A second question.
Oh, I'm sorry, if I may, I have a question pertaining to what you just spoke to. Would
Yeah.
the school then be receiving anything with the particulars of the maintenance? I know like I wouldn't probably be familiar with it, but if we could have a list of what are those particular things we need to do, as well as estimation of how much would it cost to maintain it yearly? Because I'm assuming maybe Ms. Brown, correct me if I'm wrong, that would have to be put into our school budget or taken out of our school budget.
Ms. Brown, before you jump in on there, so a couple of things. So yes, so after construction takes place, what Reflow does is develops what we call these maintenance and stewardship guides. And that's a very visual description of all the different features, identification of all the different types of plants and trees on the school grounds based on what was actually installed. We also like to do trainings with school staff and building engineers to make sure that everyone knows what's going on. We've also, with other schools, put together a one-page summary of all the maintenance that we can expect over the course of a full year. So just kind of high level, when to do weeding type of deal. And that's really helpful. We've also heard from schools that they need and want support on identifying what are native plants and what are weeds. And so something that we've been working on is some visual descriptions with master gardeners and UW Extension to use existing resources for that. And then also I do want to, before Ms. Brown, you respond to this, the types of plantings that we're talking about, these native plantings, they're native to Wisconsin and they take about 2-3 years before they are more mature. And during that time, it's a little bit more intensive. In this case, you can see these plugs that went in this bioswale. That soil between those plugs is more prone to weeds until those plants grow up and kind of make the most of that space. So there is more intensive weeding for the first 2-3 years, but after that point, the maintenance comes down because they're native plants and you don't necessarily have to water them. They're drought resistant. And after they're established, they'll kind of do their thing. But yeah, Ms. Brown, open question about maintenance costs and budgets.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure, that will come out of our budget, but then I was thinking that maybe that's something that we can also get creative with in teaching the kids this, not only enjoying the nature, but it's taking care of it too. So maybe we can incorporate that and they can help us with, some of those things, the things, that they could, because we want to teach them that, as we're trying to fold in more urban agriculture and things like that, we want them to understand that, you have to, it's not just all pretty. You have to work a little bit too. So maybe that's something that we can incorporate. And then also maybe that's something we can have some time where we're volunteering to come help, on a Saturday or after school, one day or a couple days, and maybe we can have like some days that we're doing that to maintain that as well. So that's in addition to the maintenance, our school maintenance team helping out with that. So just some idea, a couple of ideas off the top of my head, and maybe we could think of some more where we can collectively come together to help take care of this space.
Other comments in the chat, solar panels.
Oh, maybe.
That's an option we can certainly explore as well. Solar panels for the school district. We have a big open proposal to put in a large scale solar installation at North Division High School. That would be a really big step forward for the district to kind of jump from the kind of the pilot scale solar panels that at our couple sites throughout the district. Solar is like a separate initiative that we're really excited to help progress forward. I do see, that is a little different than solar panels like the flower on the school grounds, like on the schoolyard, I should say. If that's of interest, that's kind of more like a demonstration to make sure that the solar panels are visible, which certainly has benefit as well.
We need some trees trimmed.
Well, if you do a solar array, then, we're actually generating money and saving money for the building. So, I mean, I'd rather have a solar array than a flower, but thanks.
Yeah.
Also, can we incorporate where the existing garden is? We need the trees just to the east of it, down toward the river, they all need to be trimmed because they serve no purpose other than shading a garden that needs full sun.
I know Lisa's doing this, but I'm going to put that in there too, is existing. Okay. And then solar panels, that's an ongoing conversation kind of at the district level.
That's where the solar panels could go if you took the trees out.
Okay, so I know we're over our hour, but I do want to just, before we all break, I want to just kind of showcase some of the other ways to provide feedback here. So if I go back to this presentation, we have a link here for the Google Forms. Lisa, if you could just drop that in the chat as well. If we take a look at that, if you feel more comfortable responding that way, the Google Form survey asks for email address and name. If you'd like to provide that, you can download the images through that link as well. And then it has similar prompts, what do you like about the plan? And then some of the major components are listed here, and you can provide kind of a scale response to how much or how little interested you may be in each one of these features. And then at the bottom of it, what should change. And then also we're interested in knowing who else should be invited to provide feedback on this. There'll be other elected representatives reached out to and others, but if you have thoughts on that, please feel free to respond to that via the survey. You don't have to do both of them. It's kind of an either or, whatever one you feel most comfortable with. So with that being said, I know we're over an hour. Any last thoughts, comments, questions before we kind of take this feedback? And again, that board will be open for the next week. Our next steps from that will be to take all of that feedback. If there are follow-up emails, please send those pictures and other ideas. We'll take all of that content within the next month, update the plan drawings, and then we'll get back together next month. Our next meeting, Lisa, can you remind me when our next meeting is? Just work on that.
I'm looking right now.
Yeah. Our next meeting is next month, and then that will be our last meeting before the end of the school year. Based on feedback at that meeting, REFL and CDS will take all of that work over summer so that when we come back in fall, we can continue to iteratively make improvements to the plan as we keep going forward.
And that meeting's on Wednesday, May 26th at 1:30.
Is that back with the small team?
From my perspective, anyone that wants to participate in that one would be great. Would be similar where we're looking through the idea flip, but I can appreciate if others want to participate through other means as well. So up to you, Ms. Brown, however you'd like to approach it.
Okay. And I want to thank you guys again for putting this together. It's been very helpful. I've been trying to kind of explain what's going on, but I cannot do it anywhere near what you just did. So thank you so much. And I thank you to everyone who was on the meeting today and your input towards this project. I'm extremely excited about it as this starts to take shape. So, thank you to everyone. This was very helpful. And then also, just to remind the staff to continue with giving your input. And then I wanted to let you all know that I did add some pictures there. So I did that, I think yesterday. So I think they're under each category, if I'm not mistaken, under photos.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Great.
Dustin, I have one request, and it's that people think about art throughout the space. And we've got an artist in residence, one of our paras, and we've got a wonderful art teacher. And we are we're coordinating with another local artist, right, Ms. Brown? So I just want people to think about that.
Yeah, I think Marina Lee was the artist we
Yes.
talked about last time. So yeah, that's a good point. Next month when we get together, we'll show some opportunities for arts activities, including some of the Marina Lee benches. And that's a good point. We'll bring those up so we can just have a little bit more in-depth conversation about the arts opportunities on the school grounds as well. Good one.
Okay.
Ms. Brown, hi, I have a question. As far as like, well, I have two questions, okay? The first one is, you were talking about the maintenance of keeping it up. We have middle school. Can't we have middle school to come out, help pick up trash, help, weed this out, you know what I'm saying? Because we mostly have recess in the afternoons, so there's nobody out there. So can we, during that time, gloves, give them a bag? Okay, we finna go out here and pick this paper up that y'all help throw down, and stuff like that.
I think so. I think we definitely can. I think it's important that we teach them to take care of.
Yeah.
I think it'll help also in learning to take care of the community.
Right.
We want to teach them to take care of the community.
Okay, I said I only had two, but I really got three. Okay, okay, I wanted to know too, your classroom for outside, is it large enough for us to have like a middle school class outside?
Yep, that's an excellent question. The numbers that we're shooting for are 35 students to make sure that the large outdoor classroom in the middle of the schoolyard has enough seating for 35.
Has enough seating for that? Okay. And this is my last one, I promise. The trail that you were talking about for track, what about can it be wide enough to whereas, what if we had like some K4s or some kindergartners that was outside on a little bike trail, getting some exercise like that? And then we have a lot of children that have disabilities. They can be out there and being able to stretch their muscles and learning how to, to ride up and down when there's nobody out there. Can you make it wide enough so that the bikes that they would use, I know the bikes that they would use are really huge.
Yep.
They're not, you know what I'm saying, the little skinny kind. But if you had it wide enough so that they could like go behind each other and try to ride and try to, you know what I'm saying?
Yep. So
Is that a suggestion, Ms. Brown, that if they could kind of widen it a little bit just so they could bring bikes out too and to be able to enjoy it more instead of just sitting and looking? They can use their muscles and, you know what I'm saying? Get used to it. Okay, I'm done.
No, I love it. That's good.
Yeah, I hear you. I was trying to unmute. I think that's a good suggestion. I all of our suggestions. I think we want to put as many thoughts that we have out there, and then we take it from there, if I'm correct.
Yeah, make it happen.
Good suggestion.
We'll add that one for sure.
Just so you know, most of the bikes they ride or the trikes they ride are just large tricycles. So really,
Yeah,
they're
that's why I was
big.
asking for it to be, can you enlarge it wide enough so that they would
Right,
be
right.
ride
So I was
the
gonna
trail
say
as
like 3 feet wide to 4 feet wide would be plenty for those.
Yeah, I don't think it would need to be much bigger than what you need for some of the wheelchair accessibility.
Yeah.
It'd be similar. Wheelchair accessibility or bike accessibility would be about the same.
And the different textures is really good for the children to learn to go over the different textures, as long as it's not crazy rocks and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, so that is good. It
Yeah,
looks like-
nothing that they're gonna topple head over on their bikes. No head over
Yeah,
heels.
no, over heel, yeah.
No, we can show that for sure next time. So we'll make sure that gets in there. Okay. All right. Again, that board will be open till next week, Friday. So please take a moment to respond via those prompts or that survey that's just dropped in that chat as well. But thank you again, everyone. Have a nice night. Talk next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we done, Ms. Brown, too?
Thanks.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Enjoy your evening.
You too. See you in the morning.
See you in the morning. Get some rest.
Okay, give feedback. Bye-bye. I'm trying